The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS podcast. Today is Friday, October 11th, and I am joined right now by our good friend, Mr. Language Olympic himself, Andrew. Andrew, how are we doing today, man?
Doing great, Mike. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm excited to join the team officially here out on the court in action. I have really enjoyed listening to you and Coach so far with the preseason episodes and these first few DFS nights in the preseason. So really excited to be out here with you.
Yeah, no. So for those of you that don't know, Andrew Hanson, our good friend Language Olympic, at Language Olympic, LanguageOlympic, if you need to spell it, go follow him. Andrew is going to be doing a few shows with us per week now. Coach has the night off tonight, if you haven't noticed. That's why you have me over here leading it with my terrible intros. I'm no coach, Andrew. The guy is a genius with the intros and the outros. But I just want to take a minute, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got into this, and what you've been doing over here with us over at Hoop Ball, and then we're gonna jump right into this. We got 7 games, but I feel like everybody should know who you are, man.
Yeah, well, thanks. So I played some hoops in college. I played JV basketball at Princeton. I also played baseball, and so I stopped playing basketball to focus on baseball. And then I was an independent scout traveling around the country for a couple of years, sending some reports to NBA contacts. And then I started doing DFS. So about the last 5 years, I've done a lot of NBA and NFL DFS. And that's how I got here.
Yeah, man. And, I was never a good hooper. I mean, I was okay in high school. I wasn't anything special. So, I always think it's cool when I get to talk to the guys who actually were able to go above the high school level and play. And you played at Princeton, man. It's pretty good. So, I'm happy to do this, man. I'm excited to do this with you. We're gonna have a lot to talk about. It's nice to get a different voice. I feel like me and Coach are just finishing each other's sentences at this point. So
Right.
It's good to get a little break. But man, I'm looking forward to this. We got a lot to get through. Obviously, before we go any further, I just wanted to bring up and say a big thank you to our presenting sponsors over there at Fantasy Draft. Fantasy Draft, again, the only rake-free fantasy website that is out there. And, get in there, guys. The Hooters main event, it's just the contest you need to be in there. It's 500,000 guaranteed rake-free. And if you go sign up now using promo code HoopBall, you can try out that good rake-free, Andrew, for a free week. So I don't know if you've been dabbling in over there at Fantasy Draft on any of the football contests, but I've been dipping my toes in the water, and just, man, this rake free stuff is just unreal. The difference it makes when you're seeing your winnings, it's astronomical. I mean, have you been messing around with it at all? I mean, what's your take on it?
I'm signed up. I checked out the first week of NFL, and I can't wait for the NBA contest to start once we get to the regular season. And over there, you don't have to calculate on, say, a head-to-head what the rake is. Is it 15%? What is it that is going to the house? So that's a huge benefit.
It's one thing that I always put a lot of emphasis and stress on is, knowing your contest, knowing your rake, and like you said, calculating. That's important. And we get to take a back seat on that and just sit back knowing that they're collecting nothing, and we can actually hopefully collect when we win. But we got a lot to get to tonight, man. I feel like we should just jump right into it. 7 games again. We'll just throw it out there before we jump in there. Rate and review, man. Go out there. I want to, if you're listening, go follow Andrew. He's just another person. If you're looking to get a hold of me or Coach, we're not there. Andrew's our third wheel right now. Kid's unreal. He knows his stuff. I would put my word on it. So if you ever have any questions, just go give him a little tweet. DM, whatever it has to be, and he'll probably be able to get to you if one of us can't. So let's jump into this, man. Rate and review when you could, guys. It means a world to us. It's gives us our recognition when we know if we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing is the only ways by seeing your rates and reviews and your comments. So we appreciate it, and let's just go, man. We got our first game on the slate. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the slate's going to lock. There's 7 games on it, and I guess we could just start with what looks like one of the more boring games on the night, which would be Cleveland versus Detroit. So that's going to be the first game we're going to touch on, and I feel like it would be rude if I didn't let you go first. Being your first time on our show, so let's see, man. Why don't you take us over with Cleveland?
Okay, sure. So I got to watch a little bit of their opening preseason game, and one guy that jumped out at me was Tristan Thompson. They really seem to have an emphasis in that first half, getting the ball in the post, Beeline wanting to work through him. He went for 14, 10, and 3 in 26 minutes. So if he's going to play that amount of minutes, I don't see why the offensive focus would change. It is a tougher front court that he's going to be dealing with Drummond and Blake, but he's someone to consider. And then Larry Nance Jr., I mean, he's just one of those guys that with 20-plus minutes, and that's what he got in the first game. He puts up great numbers. He looks like he's jumping out of the gym. So he's somebody I would look at for Cleveland as well. So
you're primarily just sticking in that front court. Then you want nothing to really do with the backcourt guys, Sexton,
exactly.
Garland.
Exactly.
And I think that's fair, just because, there are a few options in there. It's also Cleveland, let's not forget. And I like how you brought up, the fact of who they're playing. It's Detroit. So the front court they're going to have to get up. That seems like a right time to kind of target Tristan Thompson and Larry Nance is when they're going against Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. So, I agree with you on both those guys. I think both those guys are two guys that I would have my eye on as well. I would look at a little Garland too, maybe a little Sexton. One of those guys can easily have a great game. I would probably rather go with Garland. I just think he's probably a little bit more tooled to have a good game in this kind of scenario. So those are the only 3 guys I'm looking at. You can always look at Chetty too. Small forward is generally pretty lackadaisical on nights, but we do have 7 games, so we might not need to go to Chetty. But outside those 4 options, I don't know about you, Andrew. That's kind of where I'm just keeping mine. I don't feel like we need to get too cute. Don't buy into the Brandon Knight starting lineup kind of thing. I'm all set with that.
Exactly.
All right, man. That's it. You just did your first team. It sounded good. I like it. So we're going to move on to Detroit now. Detroit, we kind of saw these guys get a little bit of a minutes increase last game, being Blake and Drummond. They got to play a little bit more than their first allowance of like 12 to 18 minutes. So I'm gonna take a hard stance and just not playing Blake Griffin. I'm not gonna play him a lot at all this year during the regular season either. It's just I think this is Andre Drummond's team. If I'm playing anybody on this team, it would probably be just Andre Drummond. I'm good with anybody in the backcourt. I think it's simple here. You can look at Christian Wood pivot, but after seeing him only play, very limited minutes on a situation where he's on the roster bubble right now, he's fighting for a roster spot and he's struggling to get minutes. So I think I'm just going to play a little bit of Drummond, and it's just hoping that he gets a nice quick double-double in limited minutes.
Yeah, he's quite good at getting quick double-doubles, so wouldn't surprise me if he does it again. The only other guy I might look at for Detroit would be Derrick Rose. Interesting that he's priced higher than Reggie Jackson, but that's because he's coming off the bench and getting up a lot of shots. He went 18, 2, and 5 in their last game out. So I might, if I'm playing 15 or 20 lineups, I'm going to have one lineup with Derrick Rose in it.
Yeah, don't knock that. I'm a Rose truther, I think, man, now. It's just at this point in his career, I think you have to root for the guy. After seeing everything he's been through, it used to be the running joke where everyone's always making fun of his knees and stuff, but I don't think there's a true basketball fan out there who's not rooting for that guy right now.
And especially to see that success last year and then the emotion on his face, when he's interviewed on the court after that big game. I agree. It's fun to see that redemption story.
And I think that's a good segue right into the next game when we're looking at the Chicago Bulls versus the Indiana Pacers. So I'll let you have your choice right here, Andrew. Which team do you want to start with?
Well, let me chat about Chicago because I really enjoyed watching them against the Pelicans, and that was one game that I stacked the other night. And the guy who jumped out at me was Otto Porter. I mean, he just looked bigger, stronger, more aggressive than I remember him in Washington. And I liked watching Levine, Porter, and Satoransky. So again, playing 15 or 20 lineups, this is one game I would stack with one lineup because I think there's a lot of correlation between those three. So those are the three guys I'm looking at. I know Coach likes Gafford off the bench, not getting great minutes, and now with Cornette back, probably not worth too much of an emphasis. So maybe just one lineup with Levine, Porter, and Satoransky. And by the way, Levine and Porter's price already going up from earlier in the week, so not as much of an opportunity. But in the preseason slate here, price often isn't a huge issue, but they are getting more expensive.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the Gafford thing because we have to focus on that. Wendell Carter Jr. has been out. He's listed as questionable, but he did fully practice, so the odds of him playing are slightly, they're increased. He still might sit just because he's been kind of battling and hampered by multiple nagging injuries over the past several weeks and leading into the preseason. But if he does play, I'm just going to go complete Fadesville in the front court. I just don't think any one of those guys getting 20 minutes would be enough. I think they would need a little bit more just because of the size of the slate. Again, we're both kind of the GPP mindset where I'm looking for a little bit more upside than just guys that are going to get me the 24 or 23. For me, it's going to be Porter, Levine. This backcourt is still just jumbled up. Kobe White has been playing absolutely phenomenal. Chris Dunn is Chris Dunn. And then we also have Satoransky. So those three guys, all of them kind of splitting the minutes up is a little obnoxious. I'm okay with it. I don't mind if you wanted to play any one of those guys in a tournament. I don't think you could really trust any of them for cash. If you were, it would probably be Kobe. But for me, I'm just going to probably avoid all three of them. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. You don't need to go to the Thad Young. He's just the veteran who doesn't need to see big minutes this preseason. So it's Levine, it's Porter for me. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to look at him.
Agreed on the backboard there, yeah. How about Indiana? Who do you like there?
Well, Indiana's a fun team to watch, I think, this year, man. It's going to be fun, especially once they get Oladipo back. I'm a big Brogdon fan, so I think for this kind of game, we're going to be looking at the usual suspects. And Indiana's going to be the kind of team that could break a slate because they do have 5 guys in their starting lineup, and any one of these guys can go off on any single night and be the guy that's called. They're all going to be relatively low-owned as well. So, the obvious names, Jeremy Lamb, Brogdon, Warren, on the wing, I think all those guys are in play. We kind of seen what all of them could already do during their own, respective preseason games where they went off. Brogdon, the one game with 13 assists, Warren dropped 30 points, and Lamb last game had a good one. So I'm looking at all those guys, and then the jumble between, Turner and Sabonis in the front court. I would probably rather play Sabonis just because I feel like he's just the better rebounder, the better scorer, and in the limited minutes, I would rather rely on the guy scoring and rebounding than the guy that needs defensive stats necessarily to get there. So that's kind of where I'm at with those. I'm not going to have any Turner, and I'm going to probably split up a couple shares between the wings, and I might buy in on a little bit of Sabonis as well.
Yeah, I agree. Sabonis is my favorite play there. All the starters played 19 minutes in that last game, and the one thing I'm curious about is jet lag. They've traveled back from overseas. They have had 5 days to recover, so perhaps it won't be a big issue. But yeah, the concern there is if they're going to play 19 or 20 minutes. They are low price, though, Brogdon, Lamb, and Sabonis is much cheaper than Turner. And you're right, Turner gets the defensive stats. He had 5 blocks in the last game, but hard to count on that. And yeah, I'm just in love with Sabonis, so I can't go through a slate without getting him in a couple lineups.
Yeah, and if you wanted to take a GPP flyer on a guy like Aaron Holiday, because if they continue that trend that you mentioned and they do play these guys 18, 19 minutes, that's going to be one of the guys that primarily benefits. So he's part of their future. They want to see what they have. TJ Leaf's questionable. Goga's already been ruled out. So a lot of the other youth is kind of already not playing, or we already know what's going on with them. So he's still a guy that kind of wants to show a little something. So I wouldn't knock you for it, but again, this is going to be our first 7-game slate of preseason. A lot of the other ones were 3 or 4, where you don't have as many chances to take. There's not as many guys to choose from. The player pool is a lot smaller. So I don't think we need to go there though. I think we can be a little picky here now, Andrew. You know what I mean? We don't need to sit there and settle on any of these guys and their 18-point nights just because it's preseason.
That's right.
All right, that's all I got for them. I think we're ready to move on. And third game of the night, we're looking at the Celtics versus Magic. 7 o'clock again, so this is going to be the last of the 7 p.m. bunch on Eastern Standard Time. Kick us off, man. Who do you like, Orlando, Boston?
Let me start with Boston. They're the team I've followed the most over the years. Shared season ticket holder there for a number of years. Ooh. And really excited about this new group. The chemistry is just, you can already tell it's much better than last year. Love Kemba, his energy. So can't wait to see how the season plays out for them. I really enjoyed Carson Edwards. He came off the bench in their preseason game on Sunday against Charlotte, and it looked like he was still in the NCAA tournament, just hitting clutch three after clutch three. So he's somebody I'm going to keep an eye on throughout the preseason and early in the season because I think he's going to get rotation minutes. But the caveat here in this game is that Romeo Langford might play. That's the latest news I heard. If he plays, I think he's going to pick up a lot of the usage off the bench. So I'm probably going to shy away from all of the lead guards for Boston in this game. The other news is Robert Williams is questionable. Again, you got to check this right before lineup lock and monitor the news throughout the day. But if he's not playing and Cantor's going to get some more minutes, then he's the one big that I'm going to target for the Celtics. He's low priced and he already got 20 minutes in the last game. If he gets more than that, you know he's good for a handful of offensive rebounds and putbacks at a minimum. So I like him. And then Hayward is just he's too low in terms of price at 4.3. He looks a lot better. He's fully recovered, and I think he'll be aggressive and put up some good numbers. So Cantor and Hayward would be the two main plays I would look at for the Celtics.
And no love for Kemba, or just because you kind of like Cantor and Hayward a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, Kemba would be probably the third play. I do think that he will likely be heavily involved, obviously as the lead point guard, but he does have to develop some rhythm with these guys. But as the point guard, I don't see him being ultra aggressive. It's not like he's going to be playing the bulk of the fourth quarter where he dominates so much during the regular season. I think he might defer a little bit and try to get the wings involved. So that's why I wouldn't target him as much as I might in the regular season.
Yeah, no, I'm not knocking it. I'm just asking just because I think a lot of people, the first thing they think of when they look at this is like, jam Kemba in there. So I just wanted to, get your take on that. And, I liked it. Me personally, I think I'm going to avoid the whole front court mess, even if Cantor plays. It's not like we're going to, it's not a great matchup for him. Vucevic is not a bad defensive center. He's maybe a little underrated, actually, in fact. So, actually, Magic as a whole, their defense was absolutely phenomenal. It was their backbone last season. So this isn't going to be necessarily a team that's just going to be easy to pick on at all either. The Langford thing, I'm just going to, do the wait and see approach. First game playing, a lot of other mouths to feed over there in Boston, a lot of other young mouths to feed over there in Boston, where I'm just not going to go there on this kind of slate. If it was maybe, a 2 or 3, I think we could take a look. But I'm not going to. And then if you want to look at, like, for me, I kind of like, the guys like Marcus Smart, just knowing that he's going to be that primary ball handler behind Kemba now with Terry Rozier over there in Charlotte. I think that gives him a little added boost that, is enough to kind of push it over the edge for me to have some interest in. But overall, there's not too many people on the whole Boston side of the ball that I'm probably going to get too much exposure to.
How about on the flip side, Vucevic, if he's playing against Cantor? Do you like him?
I think, if you were lined up against Cantor, I'd have some shares of you, Andrew, at the end of the day. Yeah, definitely, especially after knowing that Aaron Gordon took a pop to the jaw last game. I'm really just not going to expect him to play. I'm sure it's nothing serious. He exited the game, didn't really return. So, I'm sure it's not like a broken jaw or anything necessarily, but after you get popped in the mouth, 2 days prior, you don't necessarily need to roll yourself out there again. So I'm going to have some shares of Vucevic. I'm going to be looking at Isaac, who's been just balling out, just showing what he could do. They're actually playing him a little bit at the 5 even. So for me, it's primarily just going to be Vucevic and Isaac. Carter Williams, if he's starting shooting guard again, I think you can go right back to that well as well. And I think Coach would be a little remiss if I didn't mention Mo Bamba. But obviously, you're never going to want to play Bamba with Vucevic because they kind of directly correlate into each other's value.
Right. I'm interested in the bench a little bit. I like Aminu and Fultz. I think Fultz is really thriving so far in that new environment. And, talk about redemption stories like Derrick Rose. It's fun to see him sort of flourish a little bit. And it's early in the preseason, but he's gotten 21 minutes, I think, in both games. He's priced at 4.4, and he's aggressive. He's going to the hole. He's shooting some mid-range shots. So I think he's feeling good. He's at home. So I look at him a little bit, and Aminu, trying to crack that rotation and solidify his spot in the rotation. So Aminu and Fultz, I'd pair them up in a few lineups.
You know what, man? I could just never comfortably play like Al-Farouq Aminu. He's just one of those guys that, you check the box score, you look all the way on the left side of the screen, it says 34 minutes, and then you start, your eyes start scrolling to the right looking at the stats, and you just keep looking for him. There's just
you don't know what you're going to see.
So, as an overall basketball player, I like his game. For fantasy, he's just a little tough for me. I do like, the fact that he brought up Fultz. He does look great. He's just getting to wherever he needs to on the court. He's showing that athleticism. He's got just fantastic vision. All the good things that, we always wanted to see in him. Obviously, his jump shot still looks slightly broken and kind of a little clunky, but just really happy to see this kid balling. Like you said, a good redemption story, and I think he's going to be a major part of this team's offense this season, like a lot more than anybody else anticipated. So I'm really looking forward to watching him. I'm a big Fultz fan. I'm really rooting for that kid. But as far as going out there, I still don't think he's going to play 30 minutes. But 22, he can make some things happen, especially with if Aaron Gordon doesn't play. That's a big chunk of usage that is going to be distributed amongst everybody else. And I imagine Vucevic already gets his, so he's not going to be a guy, especially in a preseason game, taking a whole lot of more shots. So we're going to be looking for that to get distributed amongst probably the wings and some of the younger players. Like the guy, like I said before, I would expect Isaac and Fultz probably to be two guys that can benefit off of Gordon being out just for shot attempts wise.
Right on.
All right. Next game, man. 7:30 start. We got Philadelphia 76ers versus the Charlotte Hornets. So I don't know. Do you have any preference on one of these teams that you'd rather talk about, Andrew, or do you want to just dive in?
No, yeah, not really. I'll start on the Sixers just because one of my favorite parts of the preseason on the show was when you and Coach were talking about Ben Simmons making his first three-pointer, and Coach said that the earth might melt when he did it, and thankfully,
that's probably why he's not here.
Yeah, maybe Texas melted, but thankfully we're still here, and maybe it's just because it was against a non-NBA team. Maybe the earth will melt when he hits one against an NBA team in the regular season. But I'm glad that he's finally attempting them. It's good that he got it behind him. And now let's move forward and see if he actually can make it part of his game, because he just has to. He cannot progress through his career with this much athleticism and not develop a shot. So good for him to finally make one. And maybe with that behind him now, he'll be even more free and he'll go out and play really well. It wouldn't surprise me. He put up 21, 8, and 7. So he's, always a threat for a triple-double. And then Matisse Thybulle, if you didn't check the box score, look at that stat line. In 17 minutes, he went 10, 3, 2, 3, 2. He racked up the steals and blocks in college, and he's starting to do so right here in the preseason. So you got to get him in some lineups at his low price tag as well.
He's doing his best AK-47 impression.
Yeah.
That's one of my guys back in the day. Fantasy stud Andrei Kirilenko. He's the most sexy, unsexy play that you can get, and I used to love taking guys like that. So, I'm kind of right with you. At the end of the day, this team during the regular season is gonna be star-studded. They have a very, very strong starting five. Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, Joel Embiid. Between those guys, You're obviously looking at the main two guys being Embiid and Simmons that are going to attract most of the usage. Embiid, from my understanding, will not be playing, so he's already been ruled out. So I think with that, you can kind of start looking at some of the other options in the front court. Horford, I would probably in the regular season, I would immediately be attracted to him. I wouldn't be mad if you wanted to play him right now. It's just another veteran guy that doesn't necessarily need to play, but they also might want to try to build some of that continuity because this is something that they're going to face in the regular season. Is Joel Embiid sitting out 15 to 20 games and Al Horford being their starting center with the rest of these starters. So it's a great matchup for him. Charlotte very, very weak in the front court. Cody Zeller, Bismack Biyombo, Hernan Gomez, none of these guys, PJ Washington, none of these guys are really blowing out. So I think for me, I'm gonna probably have like a couple shares of Horford, not too much, just because I'm still a little iffy on if he's gonna play more than 22 minutes. I think that's kind of that little ceiling I always look for in preseason is I want to see more than 22. If I can kind of gauge that a guy's gonna play more than that, I feel a little bit more comfortable. And then I'm going to be looking at Ben Simmons just because he's always a guy that we want to target when we know Embiid's not playing. So that's really all I got for the Philly side. I don't know if you have any interest in Horford either.
No, you're right. I like that point a lot because, as you said, Embiid is going to rest throughout the season. Horford's going to play the 5. So Coach Brown has to look at and start to see that on the court and let the guys play through him. And it'd be fun to see if they use him in a similar way as Boston did, where he handled the ball a lot at the top of the key. And even if he's not shooting a lot, you can run the offense through him. He can get a bunch of assists. He's going to get a bunch of defensive rebounds as well. So, yeah, if he's going to play 22, 24 minutes, I like that play as well.
Yeah, and that's all. I think that's all was really to talk about. You don't really need to get too much here. I wouldn't be playing Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris. I love Toby. I'm a big Toby and Bobby guy, but not during the preseason. These guys are just too established. There's no reason for them to go out there, and they're still going to be competing with shots against other guys. So, moving on the other side of the ball, we look at the Charlotte Hornets, and they're actually on the second half. Actually, they'll have a day off in between the back-to-back. My fault. I was looking at it a little bit too quickly, but I think for the Hornets, I'm really just looking at two guys. Coach is a big Dwayne Bacon guy. I'm just not a huge fan of his overall game. I think his game is just empty. He can produce in the scoring column a little bit, but otherwise it's just usually pretty empty rebounds, assists, and defensive stats. Shot 3 of 10 last game. I'm really just gonna be looking at Terry Rozier and Miles Bridges. And then if you wanted to go at PJ Washington, I wouldn't mind it. He came out and he looked pretty good in that first preseason game, but not really going with the Malik Monks of the world. I wouldn't knock you for it. It's not like he's a bad play. I just think that at the end of the day, we'll have a few better plays. I don't think we need to play Marvin Williams. We already know Nicholas Batum was ruled out with his Achilles soreness. So if that's not more of a reason to be a little bit interested in a guy like Bridges, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Those are the guys that I would consider. I like Bacon at 4.1. I think he's got the size to deal with Philadelphia's size. If there's anybody out there on the wing who's going to be putting up 10-plus shots, he's worth a look. But Rozier is got to be the guy. He looks great. He's excited about being the lead man, and I think he's going to continue to try to establish his spot in the league hierarchy here, setting the tone. He looks aggressive and good, so I like Rozier.
Yeah, I was actually, when I played him the other night, I recommended him the other day, and I was getting a little nervous. We were almost at halftime, and he had like little to no DraftKings points, and then I refreshed it maybe 20 minutes later. All of a sudden, he was upwards of like the 25, 26 mark, and I was like, that's what you want to see from a guy like him, because he's going to have a high usage. So you're hoping that he can get you something by halftime if he's going to be rolling out there at that kind of usage. And I think that's pretty much all we need to focus on for that game. There's, like I said, I don't think we need to get too cute with all the other bench guys. 7 games on the slate. I would just jump right over to. I believe this is one of your more targeted games, Andrew. I think I feel like I should just give you this whole block. I'm gonna just kind of chime in a little bit on these guys, but take us away. Washington Wizards versus New York Knicks. How you feeling on this?
Yeah, this is one of the two games that I would stack. Both teams very poor defensively last year, bottom five in defensive efficiency. So they and it's a rematch, which is interesting. They played on Monday, 104-99. This one's going to be in New York. I think the Knicks are going to try to impress the crowd. You got to start with R.J. Barrett. He played 39 minutes in that first game. I mean, there's just no way you can't play him. He might be my top play on the slate if he's going to play that much. Plus, the talk throughout the draft process was how much he wanted to be in New York and how excited he is. So he's going to want to put on a show for the home crowd. Morris, I want to play Morris because I think he's feeling the attention of, spurning the Spurs and then the ejection in game one. So I think, and he even put up decent numbers in his 19 minutes. So I think he's going to come out and play well. And all of the starters played over 24 minutes, well, except for Morris, who got the ejection. So I would look to stack all of them, or three or four of them at least. I'm going to play some lineups with Morris and then some with Knox, because Knox played the 29 minutes when Morris was out. So I'm not going to play them together, but play three or four starters together. Then with Washington, that's a little bit interesting. Definitely not going to play Beal if he's only going to play 16 minutes, especially with a high price tag. I'm interested more in those mid-range guys. Rui, 4.7K. I love his stroke, his game. I just can't wait to watch him develop. I've heard you mention on a previous show that McRae, you like him as a gunner, and I completely agree. So I'm looking at him. Admiral Schofield is one of my favorite rookies. He didn't shoot well against the Knicks, but came back in the next game and put up good numbers. So those are a few of the guys I'm going to look at with the Wizards.
Yeah, I think all good calls. Beal sat out their last preseason game. Wasn't against an NBA team. I think both Beal and Ish Smith both sat out that game. Ian Mahiney, Isaiah Thomas, obviously John Wall will all continue to be out for them. Troy Brown, I believe, is still listed as questionable. So for me, a lot more of my attention, I think, is, you said it perfectly earlier, is going to be on the Knicks. I'm going to have a ton of interest in R.J. Barrett. Just the fact that he played 39 minutes, a rookie. Me and Coach mentioned this before, Andrew. I'm sure you probably feel the same way. And we don't care about field goal percentage during daily fantasy sports. So let him shoot as bad as he wants. He's a guy that's going to get you points. He's going to get you rebounds. He's going to get you assists. All those will be extremely valuable. And if he's going to play even 26 to 28 minutes, we'd cash out and be happy. And I think the other way I'm going to go with it is I'm going to play a little bit of Alfred Payton. It looks like he's slowly gaining the starting point guard job over there in New York. And for him to continue to roll with it, he's just got to keep showing out. And he's a guy that, real life basketball player, really not that good, not a good shooter, not that great on defense, but he is a guy that can produce, kind of just like we were talking about R.J. Barrett, in multiple ways. So for daily fantasy, so I'm gonna have my interest mostly in those two guys. I'm never gonna knock people if they want to play Mitchell Robinson. He's a guy that could just get it done in limited minutes, and in the preseason is when that's kind of what we're targeting. Guys like Mitchell Robinson, who is not afraid to foul out because he's only going to play 20 minutes anyway and go block crazy. So I'm going to have a little interest in them. On the other side, Thomas Bryant, I think, is always in play. He had a pretty good game last game. And then Rui. That's it. I'm not really going to be targeting Beal. I'm not really going to be targeting anybody in the backcourt or on the wing. It's front court or nothing for me for the Wizards. But this is a game that we're going to want some shares in. It should be fairly good paced. Both teams kind of stink, so I'd expect it to just kind of stay close. It's not like they're really going to be too overly competitive regardless, but it's something that I think we can benefit from with like a little mini game stack. I'm glad you brought that up. And keep an eye. I know you mentioned Knox. He is currently questionable. He was limited in practice due to a calf strain. Wouldn't be shocked to see him sit. I believe Bobby Portis is also going to be questionable, and that was with his rib injury that he's been dealing with as well. So if we get word that Bobby Portis is playing, I'll probably ease off the front court over there in New York a little bit more, just because there's so many guys, man. I don't know. They're saying Morris is primarily going to be on the wing, and that's kind of Knox's position. But at the end of the day, these guys are going to be mix and match. Sometimes they're going to be playing power forwards. Sometimes we're going to see him go small ball center with Julius Randle. So, yeah, there's so many things that they can do with their 19 power forwards that I just don't. I don't want anything to do with it when they're all healthy.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely got to check the news on Portis and Knox. And if they're in, yeah, I'm not going to play as much Randall. But if they're out, I like Randall, Robinson, and Peyton in some of those mini game stacks.
Perfect, man. And I mean, we only got 2 games left on the slate. We're cruising, man.
Yes, sir.
We're cruising right now. So, before we get to our second to last game, I just wanted to give another shout out to the guys over at Fantasy Draft, man. Our presenting sponsor. They're the reason why this podcast is free. Why you can sit here and hear mine and Andrew's obnoxious voices on your way to work in the morning, or maybe at the gym when you're working out. It's because these guys are awesome over there. They're the only presenting fantasy or daily fantasy site that offers rake free sports. And this is one thing that the rest of the industry is behind on. They're behind the 8 ball. You're going to slowly see them try to catch up, but by then Fantasy Draft's going to be running away with it. So go over there if you haven't already. Give it a shot. The trial's free, 7 days free. Type in promo code hoopball. HOOPBALL, and you guys will be able to try that for free for a week. And send me a heads up if you want. I'd love to play with you guys. I'm sure Andrew wouldn't mind playing a little football action with you guys if you want over there. I don't know, Andrew. Do you do DFS football at all?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, yeah, hey, Andrew would like to play over there, and it would be a good time, guys. So get ready. Build your small little bankroll now. That way you have a little bit to mess around with once the NBA season comes, because we plan on doing this, continuing to do this every single night, and, we want to win you guys some money. So get that bankroll ready. Again, you can always find us if you're on any of the major places you can hear podcasts, whether it's Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Subscribe, like, 5 stars. We're all over the place, guys. We'd really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. So, Jazz, Pelicans. Which side you want, Andrew?
Let me look at the Pelicans a little bit. This is the other game I've got sort of a dotted circle around as a potential game stack, but it would be a little bit different stack for me than, say, the Wizards-Knicks. On this one, if Rudy Gobert is playing, then I might look to stack him alone with a few of the Pelicans. Zion has just been phenomenal. 12 for 13 on national television. So he is getting pricey at 8.2, but he would be involved in a lot of my contests, and I like pairing him with Ball and then Nickeil Alexander-Walker. What a great stroke. He's got length. I think he's going to keep pushing for minutes, and he belongs in that rotation. So those 3 I'm interested in. Drew Holiday looked a little bit out of sorts to me against Chicago, so I might play a couple lineups with him. You got to figure he'll bounce back. I don't know what was going on with him, but maybe being back in New Orleans, he'll get back on track. So those guys, and then I got to mention Jackson Hayes. He played 5 minutes in their first game, then didn't play at all in the second game. I was surprised about that. I thought they'd want to give him a chance to play on national television, but he didn't. And so he's one of the ones I would shy away from playing unless I heard some news that, hey, we're going to give him some run here at home, because if he can get in there for 14 to 16 minutes, he can really pile up the stats quickly.
Yeah, man. I was a little shocked about that too, but I guess our guy over there, Nicolo Melli, is kind of forcing the question if whether or not Hayes is going to even be on in the rotation once the year starts. And honestly, it doesn't look like he will. It looks like that Melli's slowly taking that last kind of that last spot down. Okafor is actually listed as questionable though, so if Okafor sits, I think that is the perfect time to take a look at Jackson Hayes. So I'm glad that you brought him up. Right now it's a right knee contusion, but we've seen Okafor already kind of look good in preseason. He's already played enough where sitting him wouldn't be devastating for the Pelicans. They kind of already know what they have in Joel Okafor right now, and he's just the backup center. So Favors is another guy that we could look at going against his former team right now. Maybe there's a little bit of motivation in there. It's just a preseason game, but It's a little risky when you talk about a guy like Derek Favors, where he's always kind of injury ridden. He's always kind of hampered by something. Been dealing with a sore hamstring over the past week. Looks like he's good and healthy, but I just never feel confident in knowing he's going to get like 20 minutes or more. So he'd be strictly GPP. Zion's probably going to be extremely heavily owned. He definitely got a price increase. He's 8,200 now on DraftKings. So when you're talking about, prices just in general on the slate, he's fourth. He's one spot behind Doncic, Embiid and Giannis. So I'm probably gonna fade Zion, just knowing that it's gonna be tough for him. After seeing him actually get measured, what was it, 6'6" or 6'7" going against the Stifle Tower and then inside, and looking at where 12 for 13, all of his shot attempts, all 13 of them coming within a foot of the rim, is going to be a lot harder to do in a guy like Rudy Gobert. So, I'm not going to knock if you want to play Zion, just because we know what he's going to do pretty much when it comes to his athleticism and his usage on this team. He's going to be heavily involved. It should continue to be. But I just think that I'll let somebody else do it. I think that'll probably be one of my pivots, kind of get off of him and separate myself that way in these GPPs.
Anybody else you like on the Jazz side?
Nah, not really, man. It's tough. A lot of this backcourt is kind of hurt with Exum, Moutier, and then me and Coach kind of hit on this the other night. It's 90% of this team is playing in FIBA, so I'd rather just kind of take the wait and see or fade approach on a lot of these FIBA guys, unless we hear a little bit more. So I'm really okay with them. Maybe if you wanted to take a couple stabs at Mitchell or Conley, just because we know that they're going to have an increased usage, even if they play 18 to 20 minutes, those are guys that can drop 18 to 20 points in that time span. So I'll fade the whole Tony Bradley, Ed Davis backup center thing right now. I'm okay with that. I just don't think either one of them has enough upside for it. That's pretty much it, man. I don't think we need to really go anywhere else with those guys. It's just they're deep and they all played a lot over summer.
Yeah, that Bradley 30-point night could be a one-hit wonder, and of course it only came because Gobert was out. So yeah, I agree. Other than Gobert, I'm not really interested in the Jazz for the Friday night game.
Yeah, and I think Ed Davis also was in a little bit of foul trouble that game as well. Ed Davis is the guy that they brought in to be the backup center. Bradley's always been just like a quiet double-double machine when we know that Gobert's out, but he's playing, so I don't think we need to go there. I think that's, especially in preseason, you can get a real edge on who you're fading in preseason. A lot of people just box score chase. They go back, they'll look at the box score and see this guy, did well and got decent minutes, and then they're going to, think it's going to happen again. There's always a tail to the tape, though. We have to figure out why this guy got minutes, and you hit it on the head. And we're on to our final game, Andrew. This is the last game, man. Milwaukee, Dallas, two teams with just going to be league pass teams for me. I'm really excited to watch both these teams. Two of my favorite players in the NBA will be in this game, so I don't know if you want to start us off, Andrew. What are you feeling? Bucks, Dallas? Who would you like to talk about first?
I'll chat about Dallas. I guess Coach is our expert on the Mavs. He's close to the scene down there, and he's warned us all throughout the preseason that they don't play heavy minutes. So you got to tread lightly, but Luka looked excellent in his 28 minutes. So he's going to be in some lineups for me. Wait and see if we get any more indication about Porzingis and if he plays, how much. Boban, I don't know if he's one of your favorites. He is one of my favorite NBA players.
Oh, are you kidding me, Andrew? I know you haven't been following me long if you're going to say that.
No, I mean,
I'm just breaking your stuff. I'm a massive Bobby fan. Toby Bobby. Man.
The guy is just, I love his game. I mean, he's only played 9 and 12 minutes so far. I don't even need to look at the numbers. You talk about points per minute, guy's through the roof. And not only does he pile up the stats quickly, I love watching him and appreciating the fact that he's that big and he's that skilled. He can pass. His free throws great. He gave us his first 3 of the preseason the other night. So Boban, if there's a chance he's going to play, he's definitely in at least one of my lineups. And then Tim Hardaway, he's another guy trying to earn some minutes. And when he started in the preseason, he didn't have a good game, but the last game that he played 24 minutes, he went for 17, 1 and 3. So I like Hardaway.
Yeah, it's that second bench unit, second unit bench. He gets a lot of the shots up when you got Porzingis and Doncic in that starting lineup. So it's kind of hard when if you're starting along those guys, to kind of get anything. But yeah, man, whenever you get a second, go on YouTube, watch some Toby and Bobby. I don't know if you know much about their backgrounds. Those are two of my favorite players, Tobias Harris and Boban. Those guys have been best friends basically for years now. They kind of been going from team to team with each other
Right.
for a while now. It's started Clippers, then Detroit, and then they went over to Philly a little bit. So they actually have like a little spin-off show where they just kind of run around and just do stupid stuff together. And they're just best friends, and I literally love watching those guys. So it just makes me feel all like happy and giggly on the inside when I watch them. So. Yeah, man, I'm kind of with you. I wouldn't mind shares. Even during the regular season, if you tell me Boban's getting 14 minutes, I think he's in play.
Yes.
It's just he's a fantastic point per minute producer. Big monster. Nobody on this court will even be able to stand near him. It makes Giannis look small, basically. The guy's huge. Even I don't know if you saw the little take the other day when they were about to play the Thunder, and Steven Adams found out that he was going to have. He didn't know Boban was playing for Dallas, and he found out that he was going to have to go against him. And he started laughing. He was like, "He's going to crush me. I need to go back to the weight room." So
Yeah. All of a sudden, he was feeling sick, and he decided maybe I don't want to play tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna kind of just stick with the nuts and bolts here. I'm going to be looking at Luka. Porzingis, coach loved him last. I'll give him credit. Porzingis did have a great game. The one thing that I'm afraid of is the minutes, and that kind of showed. He only played about 19 minutes while Doncic played 28. So I'm going to continue just to kind of stay away from Porzingis until we see the minutes get up there. I think once the regular season comes and the games matter a little bit more, I'll be a little bit more heavily invested in Porzingis. Big fan of those two playing alongside of each other. I'm really excited. But for me, it's gonna be Luka, and Dwight Powell's questionable. If we hear that he's ruled out, I'm gonna have some shares of Maxi Kleber too. That's it, man, for me.
How about for the Bucks?
The Bucks, man. I think we actually have some options that we can go with here. So for me, I'm gonna have some shares of Frank Mason. He's gonna be one of my value plays. I'm gonna be targeting. Just seeing that Bledsoe aggravated or hurt his oblique. He strained it, so there's not a chance that he plays. Sterling Brown. I know that he's kind of been resting a little bit. He did not play last game. He should play this one. So for me, I think Frank Mason and Sterling Brown are two guys that are gonna get some extra run. Fly under the radar, both be very good value plays. Giannis is always in play, just a massive beast, and especially without Bledsoe playing, we could see some ball handling responsibilities shift his way a little bit more now. So for me, those three guys are going to be my main targets. It would be Mason and Brown, some good GPP value if you wanted to take a shot on one of them, and then Giannis, you could play GPP, cash, regardless, either one. I'm fine with them.
Yeah, I like the Mason call. If Bledsoe's out, Giannis is Giannis. I was tracking him in the last game. At halftime, he had 41.5 DraftKings points. So just outstanding. And it's a little bit scary to say, but Bender actually looks like a little bit of a different player than we saw in Phoenix. He's hustling all over the place. He's stroking it. 2 good games in a row. Not getting big minutes, but again, 15, 20 lineups. I'll have him in one.
Yeah, and he's a guy that when he was over there in Phoenix, and if we knew, Ayton was sitting, he was a good point per minute guy. He's not afraid to shoot. He's big enough where he can easily get you a double. But with everybody else in that front court, I know I'm probably just going to shy away. I don't think we need to go there. I'm not going to knock you for it, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'll let you have your Bender shares, I think, on that one, Andrew.
Yeah, I've never had many Bender shares, but maybe one tonight.
Hey, man, listen. The best part about doing this with multiple people, between me, you, and Coach, is that we all have different views. We're not always going to agree, and I think that's great for the listeners, where they can kind of get a different mindset and a different angle on all these guys, and kind of see how the different perspectives that we have on them. Why we like them, why we don't. You have your reasons for liking them. I just think he's dragging Bender, so I'm not going to like him.
Yeah, can't blame you for that.
But, I just think with, Robin Lopez and Brooke Lopez, them playing them next to each other at some points even now, one at power forward and one at center, Giannis just being there, still healthy. Maybe if Giannis was out, I think that's the right time to take a look at Bender. But, with all those guys that could just kind of jumble around in the front court, I think I'll just take a back seat on and let you have your shares. But I think that's it, man. I think we just cranked through 7 games, and I got to check our time. I think we did under 50 minutes, 7 games, man. I think we cruised right through that. Again, big thank you for our presenting sponsors over there at Fantasy Draft, and thank you, Coach, man. He's taking the night off right now. I get to sit here with you, Andrew. So, again, go follow Andrew if you haven't already. His name's Andrew Hanson. The guy's a genius. Also does a lot of other broadcasting. Just before you got on, Andrew, you're doing a little bit of a soccer game, but at Language Olympic, LanguageOlympic. I'm at Mike Apatra, MikeApotria. And then don't forget to follow our other guy over here, Joe Sarvadi. It's at JoeSarvadi. Follow our Hoopball Blurbs. Keep an eye on them for that, up to game time locks. We're going to be kind of pumping out some news, some information. We're going to give you a little bit of analysis on every single one of them. So, definitely follow us over there if you're kind of wondering who's going to be, playing, who's not playing. You'll kind of also see us, retweeting and giving our spins as lineups are coming, and approaching. It's kind of harder sometimes. Like, we record this the day prior. So if you kind of reached out to me, closer to that 10 o'clock time, it was a little tough for me to get any responses out, just kind of getting my lineups figured out, and then also knowing that we're going to be doing this pod. I also had to get ready for this as well and get all of my information all set. So I apologize if you did reach out to me and I wasn't able to get to them, but that's kind of why we got 3 guys over here. So if one of us can't, just shoot it to all 3, and hopefully one of us can get to you. Andrew, any parting words on your first show, man? I think we crushed it.
Yeah, thanks. It was a pleasure to do it with you. Can't wait till the next one, but you're right. Just check for news. Follow Hoopball Fantasy. It's tough to get information, but you can also go to the team sites. They are starting to post the lineups. At least the starters half hour ahead of time, and some of these teams are actually mentioning a day or 2 early who's out. So just check Twitter all the way up until lineup lock. And like I said, it was a pleasure, Mike. Can't wait until we do it again.
All right, man. Again, thank you for joining us, guys. We will catch you next time. There'll be another show tomorrow night. I believe I will be on with Coach, and then I get a day off, man, and then you're going to be back on here with Coach over the weekend. So we're going to be busy. You guys are going to get to hear about Andrew a little bit more. I'm sure Coach will probably get a little bit more into it. But I had a great time, man. I'm looking forward to doing some more podcasts with you. I'm looking forward to winning some people some money. So from us over here at Hoopball, from Mike Apatra, Andrew Hanson, Language Olympic, we're going to catch you guys later, guys.
Take care, everyone.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.